Hi, I'm Lisa Guyman, and I have been teaching Reiki and meditation for 22 years. And I'll be guiding you through giving a Reiki treatment here in a moment. And after I guide you step by step through the Reiki treatment, I'll share more with you about my practice. Thank you for joining me. Let's get started. I'll be guiding you here to give a Reiki treatment. I always start with setting intention, asking for divine assistance. You'll do that in the way that resonates with you, asking to be a clear channel today and every day, and asking for the highest healing in the highest good. Drawing whatever Reiki symbols you've been attuned to. I always start with the Choku Rei symbol. I draw my other symbols, and I finish with the Choku Rei. This first time through, I'm physically drawing the symbols. You can also intend the symbols, saying them silently to yourself. In addition, you can also draw them on your hands. I like to draw the symbols over the client, over the heart and solar plexus, in either order. And then I typically start with some sweeping from the head all the way down to the feet and then off the body. I like to set the intention that whatever is released goes into a sacred fire. You can sweep in long strokes down the body, or you can do more of a feathered stroke. I've had some long-term clients that really like the sweeping and have asked me to spend more time doing it, spending 3 to 5 minutes. Although typically I will do this maybe around 6 times or so. And now I'm doing some scanning. Scanning can be done with one or both hands. I like to have my one hand up towards the sky, receiving additional energy. You may want to scan with both hands. I always scan the torso first, always scanning down the body. And what you're looking for is what feels different. Is there something that feels tingly, extra hot, extra cool? Something that doesn't feel smooth. So that's what you're identifying. And then I'll draw symbols over any areas that I feel some disruption. And this is typically an internal process. I don't, share with the client what I'm noticing. And I kind of make a mental note So as I'm going through the treatment, I might spend more time there. But always trusting the Reiki will go where it needs to go. So I started with scanning the torso, and now I'm scanning the legs. So I'll scan one leg, and then I'll walk around the body to scan the other side. If possible, always move around your client versus reaching over the table. This may be a process that you enjoy, that you get a lot out of, or if you don't feel like you're noticing very much, scanning isn't required. However, I would encourage you to experiment. And then I'm scanning her arms. I'll do one arm and then move over to the other side. Sweeping down the body again, just to smooth things out before balancing the chakras. I have one hand over the forehead, the third eye, and one over the root chakra by the groin. Remembering I addressed the crown chakra when drawing the symbols. Moving to the throat and the sacral chakra below the navel. And now you could do one chakra at a time, either starting at the root or starting at the crown. You can duplicate your time at the crown if you wish. Here I'm at the heart and solar plexus. And now moving to the top of the table and starting at the eyes. So here my hands are making very light contact. No pressure. And my fingers are together as opposed to spread apart. That tends to concentrate the energy better. As you're practicing, you may be picturing the symbols or just relaxing. Placing my hands over her ears now. I might also be doing the Reiki breath from time to time. Here I'm demonstrating that I'll be cupping my hands underneath her head. So the tips of my fingertips are pointing up right at the occipital ridge. This is the only position I use some pressure, and the pressure is based really on the weight of the person's head. If your client has had any real neck issues or surgeries, then I wouldn't do any pressure here. I would just rest the hands behind the head. And here I have one hand at the occipital area and one on the forehead. Without any pressure. It's a very light contact. The eye pillow is a very nice feature. You always want to put a tissue down before the eye covering. And now moving to the neck and throat. I have one hand underneath her neck and one on over her throat without any contact. Now this was all before the coronavirus concerns. I would recommend practicing with face covering while that's still a concern for yourself and for your client. And she only wanted the eye covering while I was working over her head. And now I've moved to the heart. And my hands are hovering above her heart, working on a female. I don't make contact over the chest area. Hands moving over the stomach area. Basically, we're just simply moving down the body. Before you saw I was kneeling, that seemed to be the more comfortable way to address those positions. Typically, I would have a rolling stool or chair that I'd be using. Moving down over the navel area. Being sure not to lean on the client. So the only contact I ever have is with my hands and their body. So I want to make sure my hips aren't leaning up against the person, so be very conscious of that. And also not doing any pressure down on them, not leaning on the client. Now hovering above the groin area, not making any contact there. And in fact, the whole treatment can be done without contact. And here I move to the hip and knee. I was showing that my hand is pointing upward on the side of the hip. You don't want to have your hand on the front of the hip. You want to make sure you're on the side. The front of the hip can feel too personal. Now to the bottom of the foot and the knee. The foot and knee on the other side. Now, if I was doing a full hour treatment, I would be in each position for 3 to 5 minutes. So you really are hanging out there. And if I had a client that didn't want to turn over, I might be in each position for closer to 5 or 7 minutes. So I'm just moving up the other leg, hip and knee. And hand and shoulder, palm to palm or in the back of the hand. You can also do elbow and hand. You can move around the table in either direction. I was just doing that for the video purpose. Shoulder and hand on the other side. I'm getting the face cradle ready to have her turn over. And just something to keep in mind when she'll turn back over again. You want to make sure your client has their head on the actual table and never is resting the back of their head on the face cradle. So I'm taking the bolster out that was positioned under her knees. The bolster cushion really supports the low back. Positioning the bolster back under the ankles. Then I'll start at the upper back. And basically, you'll just be moving down the back. The hands can be one in front of the other or side by side. Just go with whatever feels more natural. Feeling free to draw symbols anytime you like. Or just relax. And you can also do the Reiki breath. Just moving down her back. That Reiki breath is when you breathe in, you imagine Reiki flowing in through the top of your head and into your lungs. And as you exhale, the Reiki is flowing down and out your hands, out into your breath, into your aura, into the space you're in. And here I'm doing the sacrum, the low back, and the back of the neck. One of my favorite positions. Drawing a symbol there, the low back. Placing your hands on the back of their knees. Always a good idea too to check with your client and see if there's any placements or any areas they don't want contact. I've had some clients that don't want any contact, like their feet or over their eyes or so forth. So just check in. And here I'm doing the bottom of the foot and the hand, the palm of her hand. Holding one foot with both hands. You can have your one hand on the top of the foot, one on the bottom of the foot, or you could do heel and toes. Moving to the other foot. One hand on the bottom of each foot. here I'm doing the bottom of the foot and the hand. And now I'm sweeping from the top of the head to the bottom of the feet and off the body. You don't have to switch sides for the sweeping. At the end of the session, I'll do the sweeping 3 to 6 times. Then I'll be doing fluffing, which seems to lighten everything up. And here I'm doing a figure 8 from side to side. The infinity symbol seems to weave together the two sides of the body. As they say, we have the left and right hemisphere of the brain. So this is kind of connecting the sides, the nervous system. And then when it's time for your person to turn over, give them a physical cue. So I always touch them on the shoulder or back and say, okay, it's time to turn over. Taking that bolster out so they don't have to climb over it. And I always like to hold the blanket and sheet up so they don't get twisted as much in it as they're turning over. And again, be sure when they turn over that the table is stable and that the face cradle, that they're resting their head on the table and not on the face cradle. If the person was using a eye covering, I'd put a tissue back on and the eye covering back on. And then the bolster underneath their knees. And now sweeping down the body. And then you'll do the fluffing on the front as well. Drawing that infinity symbol down the front of the body. And then the central meridian from the root chakra, the groin area, zipping up to the nose. I like to place my one hand by the nose and use the other hand to do the zipping up. I zip up, and then I move my hand off to the side. And then I will zip up a third time. This really helps to ground the energy. Then I will draw a Choku Rei to encircle them in light. And everything I'm doing in here would be silent for the client. And at the end, this is where I would give thanks for the help we received. And I'd wish the client a special blessing, peace, healing, love, light. And stepping back and beaming them. Thank you for practicing Reiki with me today. As you know, I've been teaching Reiki now for 22 years, and up until 2020, I only taught in-person classes. I traveled coast to coast and absolutely loved it, teaching in Seattle, LA, Austin, New York City, Detroit, and Denver. And I had been wanting to extend my reach and to teach online, and then bam, the coronavirus hit, and that changed everything. So now you don't need to travel to take a class with me. I am offering fully live experiential Reiki 1, 2 master and teacher training online. And my students that have taken the courses online have absolutely loved it. You can subscribe to my newsletter if you visit lisaguyman.com, and then you'll get notified of any special events that I offer. You'll see my training schedule, and you'll be in the know. Also, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I thank you so much for being who you are in the world, and know, so importantly, that every single time you meditate, every time you practice Reiki, and every time really that you get into a space of peace and calm, you help to raise the consciousness of the planet. Namaste. Oh, hey! I'm so glad you're still here, and glad that we had the chance to share in this positive energy. And I look forward to seeing you again or meeting you for the first time. If you visit my website, lisaguyman.com, you can learn about upcoming Reiki trainings that are online, other events that are happening. And thank you for sharing in this energy. And have a great day. Bye-bye. Au revoir. Hasta la vista.